Hello everyone. It's good to see everyone here today. Once again, my name is Diamond Master Daniel. It's great to see everyone here. Another great week. Why don't we just go ahead and say hi to one another? It's great to really pour in our all while doing Atomy, right? So we're all here for the same purpose, for the same mindset, right? That we all want to succeed in Atomy. Or why else would you spend your lovely Thursday evening here listening to us babble on about what Atomy is about, right? I think all of us have the same mindset and same goal, right? So then that means that we have to have the right attitude towards this business, right? Whether it's listening through the same information every other week or every week, we have to be at our best no matter what, right? So that's why for us, in order for us to succeed, we must learn how to do things repetitively, right? That is the sort of the struggle, if not the hardships that one must face while they're doing Atomy, right? And so, today I'll be speaking on behalf of us for our, road to success. So before we begin, let me just pull that up here for us. Okay. Perfect. Yes, so we are going to learn about the successful business formula, right? What makes Atomy so powerful is a fixed formula, right? We're not doing something crazy out of the box, something very, complicated, right? Everything we do is a very fixed box, and you can actually apply this to anything in your life, whether it's your own business, whether it's things that you want to succeed in. This is the kind of fixed formula that a lot of the big major businesses also follow as well. So then what do we have to realize when we do Atomy, right? So one of the biggest things that we have to change is our mentality in terms of Atomy. We have to look at the value that Atomy brings to the table, right? So many people who struggle to understand the value of Atomy end up either quitting, right? Because they don't understand why Atomy is so great after doing it for some time, or they do it very slowly because they're not very interested in Atomy, right? They think that, okay, you know what, like, maybe Atomy is gonna make me successful, maybe not, but just because I can just sign up and I can just sit there and wait for my sponsor to do all the work and I don't really have to do anything or wait for my partners to do all the work, then I don't think I'll have to put in that much effort. And so I just expect to slowly succeed, and that's just how you pass the time, right? And so many of us, waste our time, valuable time that we only have a limited amount of, and wasting it doing these kind of things, right? So the quickest thing that you need to do in order to succeed in Atomy is to think differently about what Atomy is, right? So a quick example of this is that, let's say we have a rock, right? And so we're given a rock, and then we're asked to see the value of that rock, right? And so for most people, that rock might seem useless, right? They're not going to look at that rock and think that, okay, this is going to make me a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever. But what they didn't realize that when you open that rock, there was a diamond inside that rock, right? But because they didn't want to open it and work hard to dig through the rock to get that diamond, they wasted a valuable opportunity, right? Because diamonds are expensive, and same thing can be said for Atomy. Many people think that, oh, Atomy is a waste of time, or Atomy is, not valuable because I'm not making money right away, right? And so if we act the way according to how we feel and think about Atomy, then your success will not come in Atomy, right? So it's very important that if you truly want to succeed, then you actually have to believe that Atomy is the way for you, right? If it's not, then either way, you can still apply the same thing, right? Whether it's your own business, right? If you think your own business is not very valuable, then you're not going to act in the right ways. You're going to wake up late, you're going to be lazy, you're not going to really work hard. But the same thing can be applied if you think that your business is, valuable to you, you're going to be the first person there in the morning at 8 a.m. You're going to be the one to open the store, right? You're going to be the one to restock the store. We're going to be the one to order, right? And so if you think that way about any other business, how come it's so hard about doing that towards Atomy, right? I think a lot of people who don't do that, which make up about like 90% of people in Atomy, are the reason why there's so many people failing in this business, right? And I think the majority of this comes from because Atomy is free, right? One of the biggest benefits that Atomy has is that it's free. We don't have to pay anything to join, anything to, purchase or things like that. We're not pressured to pay a monthly fee or anything, right? And because of that, it makes it so easy for us to forget why Atomy is so great, right? Because, a lot of the things in life is not free, right? When you live in a nice house, you have to pay the same amount of money to live in that house, right? If it's $1 million house, you have to pay $1 million to live in there, right? Or the mortgage fee is going to be really expensive, right? If you live in a very cheap and bad house, then you're paying for this bad price, right? And that's just the reality of how it is measured. But because Atomy, there is no set price to it, we're not asked to pay anything. Many of us think that, okay, I don't really have to work hard because I don't really pay anything to be here. I don't really have any sort of value invested into this company. So we don't realize that what we're doing is wasting our time and wasting our money by not really participating and putting our all into this Atomy business, right? And another great aspect of that we want to look into is that look at yourself at where you are 10 years from now, from where you are now, right? And so if you have your current job, whatever you may be a business owner, you may be a corporate worker, right? Maybe you work for Samsung, maybe you work for Amazon, right? You make maybe $100,000 a year or so forth. You work 9 to 5, you have weekends off, right? Great. It's not that bad. But no matter how hard you work, it's very hard for you to grow even more from there, right? Imagine myself 10 years from now, I probably maybe become a manager at where I am, but it's very hard for me to become a general manager, right? Or even more like a CEO or CFO of that company, because a lot of that also plays into politics. No matter how hard you work, it doesn't always mean that you're given the same kind of reward for your hard work in those companies, right? A matter of fact, many of the times you're actually the opposite happens, right? Especially during hard times for the business. And we probably all faced this during COVID, right? COVID happened, many of people lost their jobs. Many of the people who had their own business had to go file for bankruptcy or close their shop or downsize because they couldn't afford all these things, right? So then where will you be in the 10 years time, right? Because 10 years is a long time, but at the same time, it's not that long, right? So you have to understand that we have to always predict and try to envision ourselves 10 years from now, right? Then in order for us to achieve those 10-year gap, what do we have to do to fill that gap, right? If I want to become a millionaire 10 years later, then what do I have to do in between those 10 years for me to become a millionaire, right? I'd have to work hard. I have to do all these things diligently, right? And so if I worked at my 9 to 5 job, I would probably never be able to reach that millionaire goal. I would always be the same 9 to 5. Maybe I'll become a manager, but at the end of the day, I'd have to work on maybe another 10 years for me to become like a general manager and make maybe even 20%, 30% of my salary, right? So it's a very bleak and scary world out there. And honestly, a lot of my friends have also went through a lot of hard times, especially during COVID, right? A lot of them got laid off, a lot of them lost their jobs, thinking that this job will last them forever, right? And for companies, they don't care about us, right? For them, their biggest concern is to make money, not for our safety, not for our future, and our livelihood, right? So I want us to think about it. Are you truly working for your future, or are you working for someone else's future, right? So in 10 years in ATOMY, it can completely change your life, right? And 10 years, as I mentioned before, it's a long time, but at the same time, it's a short time as well. So 10 years invested, right? Let's say you're 40 or 50. You spend 10 years from now, you're going to be either 50 or 60. You still have, let's say you're living to 100, right? Because the average lifespan has increased due to medical advancement and so forth. So let's say we live to 100. We have 40 years that we can spend living a luxurious lifestyle, right? Because if you reach Imperial Master within the 10 years, then you're able to receive $100,000 per month, every year. And so you're going to live a very comfortable lifestyle for 40 years, right? And then after 40 years, you pass away, that 100,000 now doesn't disappear, but it goes to your children and they can benefit for that 100,000 for the remainder of their years. And then they can pass it to their children, right? So then making that opportunity starts from you, right? It starts from us. So why wait now instead and not do it now, right? Many of us push it off, push ATOMY off at the end, right? Oh, I can do it when I'm 60. I can do it when I'm 70, right? I still have time. I'm gonna make money now in my current job, but I'm not gonna focus on ATOMY because it's not making me money right now, right? And then you're going to be 20 years, 30 years behind those of your friends, those of your partners that have been consistently working hard every single year from the beginning, and they've already finished becoming an Imperial Master before you, right? So then you're going to look back 20 years from now and say that, oh, why didn't I? Why didn't I do it then? Right? So don't wait until it's too late, right? Continue to strive for your business, for your ATOMY goals, because that's what we're all here for. We're all here to succeed, right? We're not all here to, some of us are here to play, unfortunately. Some of us are here to chit chat, right? Waste our time. Maybe we have too much money on our hands, so we don't really need to focus on ATOMY. But if you are actually serious about building lifetime wealth, then you have to put in the hard work. Unfortunately, that's just how it is, right? Nothing is free in this world. Even though ATOMY is given to you for free, it still needs you to actually put in effort in order for you to create value out of it. So then what kind of people are successful in ATOMY, right? There are all kind of people who are successful, right? Just as we have here is Steve Jobs, right? So he is the owner of and CEO of Apple, right? Or he was before he passed away. And so even though he passed away, none of that wealth actually belongs to him. After you die, none of that really matters. But before then, he was a wealthy person, right? And so he was able to build up Apple to where it is now because of all his hard work. Even though he faced his own failures and struggles, that allowed him to reach to where he is now. So then the four key points for becoming successful is that you have to become those who are focused on the business, right? Without being focused on your business, you're gonna have a very hard time becoming successful, right? Another thing is that you have to have a very business mindset. You need to understand how ATOMY works. Even if you weren't a business owner before, you need to quickly learn how to become a business owner, right? You can't always just say, oh, I'm not a business owner, and then leave it to your partners, leave it to your sponsors to do your work for you, right? If that happens, you're going to lose everything. Instead, you have to make this your own, right? So you have to become your own business owner. Even if you're not successful at first, if you keep trying, eventually you will become a successful business owner in ATOMY. And you have to become a person who's able to overcome all hardships, right? ATOMY is very peculiar where you're going to face all kinds of hardships, especially mental hardship, right? It's not physical because you're not actually physically working to, if I was working at like, let's say a moving company, I have to physically overcome the hardships of moving all these heavy boxes, products or building material in order to do my job and get paid. But in ATOMY, we have to overcome mental hardship, right? What do I mean by mental hardship? We're going to face all kinds of people who are not going to like that we're doing ATOMY, people who are not going to enjoy us finding success in ATOMY, all kinds of people who are going to talk bad about us and rebuke us and so forth. And so in order for us to succeed, we have to have a very strong mental base for us to continue to overcome those challenges. And lastly, you need to become a person who is able to grow their dreams, right? You can't just maintain and be satisfied at a certain level in order for you to become successful in ATOMY. You always have to continue to plant and water your plant until you become a huge tree. So let's dive a little bit deeper into becoming a successful person, right? So those, have to be hyper focused is super important in ATOMY, right? And so, many of us, when we are asked like, oh, when did we start ATOMY? They all start in saying that, okay, I started this business 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? But some of them are not successful, right? Some of them are still here 3 years, 5 years, 10 years later, and they're only a sales master or a diamond master, right? Or Sharon's master after 10 years or so forth. Then that means that they're not really successful. Why? Because they haven't focused on the business, right? So then what does that mean? That means that they haven't actually committed to that business, committed to ATOMY, right? So when does that happen? Is that turning point of why you should select ATOMY. It has to come into your mind, right? So not when you started, but when you actually decided to choose ATOMY as your number one, business, right? That's when you need to say that, okay, that's your starting point of ATOMY. It could be a variety of things, right? Let's say that you started to choose ATOMY after you used ATOMY's Hemoheme, right? Let's say you went through a very tough time in terms of your health. You tried ATOMY's Hemoheme, and then it helped cure a lot of your health issues. And so you decided that this is the amazing product. I want to share it with others. That's when you decided to do ATOMY, right? That's when you decided that, yes, this is my product. I'm going to share it with others, and I'm going to make money off of this and succeed, right? Not when I met ATOMY the first time, right? That could have been 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Some people joined ATOMY like 10 years, but they still are only a customer because they're not really interested in the vision, right? So I'm talking about when you actually decided to focus and put your all and start this business, right? And next is to have a business mindset, right? So business mindset is very, very important in ATOMY, right? So what do you need to do is that you need to know the value of your own networks, right? You're gonna have to have the eyes to recognize your core members, right? So there's many of people who do not understand their own network and their value and think that, okay, it's not that important. My people down below me, I don't really need to put a lot of time and effort into it because maybe they're not going to be interested in the business. Maybe they're not going to be my customers. Maybe they're not going to buy anything, right? But instead of placing your own value on your customers or your partners or potential members down your list, all you have to do is build out that members list and go ahead and reach out to each person, right? Regardless of whether you say no or not, whether they say yes or you're yes or no, you never know because at the end of the day, it's up to them on whether they want to use the product or not, right? The only thing you can do is be prepared, right? So when they ask you questions, right, that's when you have to be prepared. They're going to ask you, oh, what does this product do, right? And then if you are a business owner and you don't even know what that product does, can you truly be called a business owner, right? If they ask you, "Oh, Daniel, what does Hemoim do?" And then I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. I think it just makes you healthier." Then that's not really a business owner, right? Then they're not gonna really have a reliable time, and they're not gonna trust me on what product I'm going to sell them. So eventually, they're gonna leave or they're gonna go to someone else, right? But when they ask you the questions and then you're prepared to answer them, like, oh, hemoim, it's an immune booster, it boosts your immune system, right? It has all kinds of these effects that are great for your health, and I personally have experienced those changes, and then you share your experiences, then that's going to help them better understand what kind of products that you're trying to offer them, right? And then they're going to want to switch over and at least give your product a try, right? So don't be scared to give that kind of message out, to anyone that's joining, because in the beginning you never know, right? And people are the most important asset in Atomy as a business. And so, as I mentioned before, you need to have a eye to discern the right kind of people who are going to be your core partners, right? So there's some people who stick with that one partner for 10 years, 20 years, and that one partner has never purchased anything. They never attend a seminar, but that I'm hoping that partner becomes my core member. Is that the right kind of partner? I'd say that that's not, right? So instead of wasting your time looking for these people who are not actually going to do the work, you need to have the right kind of eye to see this person is actually going to want to do the business with me, right? This person is actually going to want to do the work, but maybe they're only up to a certain level, right? And so you got to kind of see and have that kind of idea of what these kind of people are going to do in this Atomy business, and set that kind of expectations already beforehand and work alongside those people with that certain expectations in mind, right? And then slowly, as those people understand the bigger picture that Atomy has, maybe they're also going to grow as a person and then want to aim for even higher level of mastership, higher growth in Atomy. And that's when you're kind of change and match their level as well. And the next thing is that you have to become someone who is able to overcome hardship, right? So in Atomy, you're gonna face all kinds of hardship, right? Because unfortunately, we have a negative stigma because Atomy is a network marketing business, right? However, network marketing, just because of this negative stigma, it does not mean that our business is actually bad, right? Rather, our business model is actually excellent, and it has a very strong foundation in terms of our marketing and our commission base. But the majority of the people that tell us that we're doing something bad is because they don't really understand the value that Atomy brings, right? So we covered earlier the value of Atomy, right? So then that's where this kind of ties in together, right? So if we want to overcome these hardships, we have to understand the value that Atomy brings to our life, right? If we don't really have any understanding of why we want to continue to do Atomy, even if someone says something very small, we're going to give up. We're gonna be like, oh, my best friend said that I'm a horrible person for doing Atomy. They think that I'm going to fail, blah, 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 right? And that's because I don't have a very strong belief in Atomy as well, right? I myself then don't really believe in it. That's why when someone says something to me, then I'll feel very weak. I'll feel very depressed, right? But if I believed in Atomy 100%, 200%, even if someone tells me that, oh, Atomy is bad, I'm gonna go back to them and tell them, hey, even though you might think that way, let me tell you why Atomy is going to change your life, right? Let me help you change your life. And then you're going to change the way you see things, change the way you tell others about why they need to pursue Atomy, right? So you gotta have a really strong mentality when it comes to being able to overcome your hardships. And then lastly, you need to become someone who is able to grow their dreams, right? So growing their dreams is not easy, right? Growing your dreams, it's easy to dream, but it's hard to grow your dreams, right? Because many of us, our dreams are very short-sighted sometimes, right? We only aim for a surface level and it's not very specific, right? Some of us have big dreams, right? I want to become a millionaire, right? But then we don't have the when, we don't have the how, we don't have, where, who, when, all those kind of things that fall into the aspect of becoming a millionaire, right? No matter how much I want to become a millionaire, what is the way I'm going to do it, right? What is my strategy? All of those things have to be built. When, by how, right? Like, am I gonna do it by 2027, right? Am I gonna do it by March? Am I gonna do it by April? Or am I gonna do it with Atomy? Am I gonna do it with this, right? You have to start planning those things. You can't just have empty dreams without any action plan following along with it, right? And with dreams also come responsibility. If you want to grow your dreams, you actually have to put in the effort, right? Many of us only dream and that's it. Well, that's where our dreams end. We just, okay, I want to become an imperial master. And then no action is done for the next 3 months, right? And then I hear someone or I listen to a nice lecture. So I work hard for like 1 week or 1 month. And then after that, the next month, I'm back to my same self. I'm lazy. I don't want to work hard, right? I just go like, okay, you know what? Maybe next month I'll try hard, or maybe next year I'll become successful. But then when will you actually succeed if you do it like that, right? I don't think I've ever seen any successful millionaire who hasn't worked every single day in their life to get to that point, right? Becoming a millionaire or becoming a billionaire, it doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's not like a lottery. But many people think that Atomy is like a lottery. I'm gonna meet that kind of, hardworking partner. I'm gonna meet that kind of hardworking sponsor or right kind of customer. But why would you have to wait for that if you're not ready, right? If you're not ready, when those kind of people come, no matter how great they are, you're going to lose them. They're gonna all just fly out of your hand, right? So instead, continue to develop yourself, continue to work on yourself. So then by the time that you meet the right kind of partners, meet the right kind of, customer, you're gonna be ready to lead them to grow their dreams, right? And then after that, you want to aim for a higher dream, right? Some people in Atomy, they only want to aim for $2,000 a month, right? They're like, okay, Daniel, I'm so happy if I just become an auto sales master and I only make $2,000 and then I'm just gonna not do any work. But then when I see those kind of people, I immediately know that I do not want to work with them, right? Because they have no bigger dream. And what happens if they only stop at sales master? Everyone down below them are not going to be making any sort of profit. And eventually, if all those people leave, they're not going to make $2,000 anymore, right? That small amount of money is going to disappear instantly because of their selfishness and their arrogance thinking that that's all they need to do. Right? Instead, if they reach $2,000, then now they have to aim for a bigger goal, right? If making $2,000, it should only be a temporary goal in Atomy. It should never be the end goal, right? And same with becoming an Imperial Master. Imperial Master is not only your end goal, but it should only be the beginning, right? A beginning of living a wealthy life where now you can do even more things, right? And achieve more dreams while being financially free and not burdened by being poor, right? And so the biggest thing in Atomy is you have to be ready to grow your dream proactively, right? So then what can I do in order to become successful? What is needed, right? Very, very simple, right? We just have to be plugged into the system, right? We're not asked to create our own system, create our own, different techniques to succeed in Atomy. The system provides you with every single thing that you need, right? Everything from marketing plan to the business to the products, the detail of what the products are, everything is in the system. So we don't have to do any of the hard thinking. We just have to learn and study it. And then we have to take action on what we study, right? There's also people I found that only like to study anatomy. All they do is study, study, study. But then after studying, they don't do any of the action, right? They just keep studying forever. And that makes me so worried because at the end of the day, no matter how hard you study, if you don't put it into action, then you're not making any money, right? And you have to hold hands together, right? Atomy is very different from other business models where you are by yourself, right? You have to actually work together with the right people. So that's why earlier I mentioned that you have to have the eyes to find your core members, right? So in Atomy, there's a thing called 7 cores, right? 7 core means you need to find 7 core members in your group, right? And what does that mean? Is because whenever you go to do a mastership challenge, you need to work with those core members to achieve your challenges, right? And that doesn't just happen automatically. You have to actually find those people and then decide to work together with them. But if you have a bad relationship with those people, then you're going to have a very hard time building out your core members or even going for masterships altogether because of all these things. And what makes it hard to build the right kind of relationship? being selfish, right? Being greedy, right? If you only think about yourself, right? There's some people who only match their own points, right? Your partner is working hard, and instead of helping your partners and working together with them, whenever they put up a point, you're busy just matching points so you can make money, right? Then how is your partner gonna survive? At the end of the day, you're just sucking the blood out of them, and then they're gonna eventually die, and you're left with nothing, and you're back to becoming nothing, right? You're back to becoming zero. So instead of focusing on just yourself, focus on other people, right? Atomy is a very interesting business model where if you focus on other people, naturally you become successful. And another key thing is that you have to work in the right direction, right? There's some people who work really hard, right? They work every day, 9 to 5. They put all their time into Atomy, but they're going in the wrong direction, right? They don't listen to their sponsors. They don't listen to the system. They think that they can do it all by themselves. And so they go into the wrong direction. So 5 years pass, 10 years pass, and then they come to you and say, how come I'm not successful yet? I've been working so hard. Atomy is a fake business, right? But it's not that Atomy is fake, it's just that they have been working in the wrong direction. So then ultimately, they only have themselves to blame. And lastly, you have to work until the end, right? Until the end, meaning Imperial Master. Our auto Imperial Master is our end goal. So not just Sales Master, right? My goal shouldn't just be only making 2,000 a month or 4,000 a month, but Imperial Master. I should be making Imperial Master amount of money. And that's when I know that I am financially free and ready to move on with another part and another chapter of my life, right? And so these are the kind of simplified version of what you need to do in order to build out your Atomy business, right? It's not very complicated. I'm not asking you to create your own successful algorithm or plan a coding for your website, right? Or create all these kind of high level products for selling. All I'm asking you to do is these 4 simple things, and you just have to apply them and then duplicate them to your partners. And so before we end off here today, I'd just like to watch a quick video.
Some of the most successful people in the world are the ones who've had the most failures. J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, her first Harry Potter book was rejected 12 times before it was finally published. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. He lost hundreds of games and missed thousands of shots during his career, but he once said, "I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed." These people succeeded because they understood that you can't let your failures define you. You have to let your failures teach you. You have to let them show you what to do differently the next time. So if you get into trouble, that doesn't mean you're a troublemaker. It means you need to try harder to act right. If you get a bad grade, that doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you need to spend more time studying. No one's born being good at all things. You become good at things through hard work. Some of the most successful people.
So yes, I hope that last bit where, Obama was saying that you don't just become born being good, right? I'm pretty sure 100% of us all here, we weren't born to be good at doing Atomy, right? But instead, we work towards becoming better at becoming a successful Atomian, right? So then it all boils down to us, right? Even if we fail here, as long as we're not giving up and we learn from our mistake and we build one step at a time, eventually we'll come to a point where we look back and you're already an Imperial Master, right? So I hope that all of you become an Imperial Master, and let's all work hard together until the end. Thank you so much.